everyone. Welcome to Town and Community Committee on the 15th of April. We have a small preamble just to discuss the YouTube. Just to say this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Biddulph Town Council YouTube page. The aim is that decision making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of our community and local democracy. By being in this council chamber, you are consenting to being recorded and for your image to be added to YouTube. Images and sound may be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Biddulph Town Council. Please view the guidance on recording in public meetings policy if you need any more information. First item on the agenda tonight is 85, apologies and approval of any substitute members. Apologies, we've had Councillor Harper and Councillor Proudlove. Any further?
Nope, and no substitute.
And no substitutes. Okay. And item 86, declarations of interest, be those disclosable pecuniary interests or any other interests. And on to item 87, minutes, to sign the minutes of the Town and Community Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 18th of March, which have been before full Town Council. Am I okay to sign those?
Yeah.
Receive the notes from the events working meeting held on the 24th of March. Those should be in your pack.
Check.
Do we want to run through those, or are you happy? Have you managed to have a look through those?
Need to look through.
We have a seconder. Councillor Garb. And then to receive the notes of the Biddulph Works Together meeting held on the 26th of March 25. Again, are we wanting to go through those, or are we happy to receive them as well?
Yeah.
Have a proposer for Councillor Darby. Seconder. Councillor Redfern. Thank you. Item 88, to receive an update on the chain reaction project event on the 12th of April. And we have Councillor Yates back in one piece. Which is great. You're going to tag team this one a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So the event on Saturday was a really lovely success. So the idea was that we hold an event which was outside the library in Biddulph, and we bring together a wide range of partners to kind of kick off a year of action in relation to cycling. So we were joined by members of Moorlands Climate Action who prepared 30 plus bikes during the course of the day. They were supported by our Biddulph Repair Cafe, the social connective team there with cake, which was marvellous. The Waste Minimisation Office from the County Council brought along 30 plus bikes, which is just a drop in the ocean in terms of the number of bikes that are left at recycling centres. So they've got lots and lots of those around the county. So as long as people signed a disclaimer to say they'd sort of taken it as it was, they could take away a bike on the day at no cost. Lots of people made donations, and donations went to the Green Tree House. And they were really pleased with that. The police were there as well to do bike marking. The bicycle ballet was a sight to behold. It was absolutely fabulous. If anybody was around town and not at the library on that day, and you saw 5 yellow
Minions.
people cycling around town, that's what that was.
There's 5 aluminium cycling around London.
Ah, yes. Well, it was really, really interesting. So that was outside project. The library obviously hosted us, and we were there asking some questions to try and gauge people's views on cycling and the sorts of things that they want us to work across. So it's absolutely a Moorlands-wide project. We're working with the Move More team in Cheadle and obviously Moorland Climate Action, mostly based within Leek, to kind of come up with a programme of events over the course of the next 12 months, where we'll get rid of lots of bikes. Hopefully people get free bikes. There's a couple of our local schools have already been given some bikes for young people there. And hopefully we'll get some really good data from the questionnaire as well as regards what we can do in terms of improving infrastructure and improving opportunities available for people, encouraging them to use bikes and to get out and see a bit more and move a bit more. So it's a really positive launch day. We've got lots of amazing photographs which are shared on our social media, as do lots of our partners. So it's
Brilliant. Perhaps the Yates.
Yeah, obviously, I was slightly involved in this as accumulation of my cycle challenge, which was being back, but picking up on the fact that it's a Moorlands-wide project, one of the projects which we are trying to work up as part of the Move More strategy is to initiate another long distance path, very similar to Biddle Valley Way, starting at Rushton Spencer at the old station hotel, going past Rudyard, connecting up at Barnfield, which connects up to the Corling Canal. So the reason I mention that when I'm talking about something which is very much towards the eastern, the Leek part of the world, is that will allow us to have a flat route into Leek. A little bit long, but you know, we've proven with what we've done that we can do that, which is effectively taking the Biddle Valley Way to Birch's Head, the Corling Canal to Barnfields, and then you can cycle to Rudyard, which would make it quite a nice, if not circular, certainly a nice U-shaped flat path to connect up different parts of the Moorlands, accessible from Biddle purely on cycle. So that's an initiative which we're working on.
Any more comments on the item for the chain reaction?
Just to say, for me, we're trying to organise another working group, which will probably be in a couple of weeks. We'll pull together our initial ideas and feedback at that. And as I say, plan the week of events. So all a very positive start, a lovely project to be involved in. I think what we would need to do going forward is to think about applying for some funding to support these projects as well. So there are lots of different pots, all quite small amounts of money, but we would want to support partners like the Biddulph Youth and Community Zone to have a bike project there, and then to buy bits of, you know, a whole stash of inner tubes and whatever else it needs to maintain bikes. I think having those sorts of items would enable us to move the project more easily and support partners with that. So I'll have, if everyone's happy with that, I'll have a look for some bike-based grants, and hopefully we can get some extra funding in for that.
Councillor Rogers?
Yeah, so date been set for another chain reaction event in Biddle or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
That's the purpose of the next kind of working group, like I say, is to get some additional dates in the diary.
Thank you.
Okay. So are you wanting to set a date for a working group, or just send out via email?
They'll do that and let us know when they want to be, when everybody's free. I think Michelle from the library will coordinate that.
So moving on then to item 89, to consider an approach to the creation of a Biddulph Works Together logo.
Thank you. This is me again. So one of the recommendations from the piece of work, if you recall, that Councillor Salt did in her kind of work capacity was, there were a number of recommendations for the Biddulph Works Together project, and a lot of those we were able to put in place pretty much straight away. One of the things that seems to have taken a bit longer and has sort of ended up a little bit in the back burner, I think, is the creation of a logo, and I'd really like to get it moving so that now most of the activities of Biddulph Works Together are kind of slowing down for the summer. It would be really nice to have something up and running when we start again, kind of September, October time. When I put out some social media a little while ago to ask people if there was anybody who was a designer out there and who wanted to create a logo, got a couple of inquiries, which I then kind of sent back whatever feedback they'd requested. But not much more. So really what I want to know is, do you have a budget in mind in terms of what it might cost, what you'd be happy to spend on the creation of a logo? Because I don't think necessarily it's a project that anybody would want to do for free. So we'd need to have a think about that. And are you thinking, I mean, presumably it's a logo that could be shared amongst all partners and used in a kind of variety of different media, so it needs to come in different, you know, formats, I suppose. That's kind of what I'm envisaging, a sort of lots of hands together, or lots of, you know, I don't know, I'm not creative enough to know what that would be, but I need a budget, and I need a direction of travel, really, so that we can get this one recommendation moving.
So didn't we, when we first thought about this, certainly over 12 months ago, and I think some of the ideas were about hands holding together. I think Nigel actually pulled a few images off the internet. It was like a ring of hands or two hands holding together, rather than going to the expense of having something specifically designed. The hand holding thing, to me, encapsulates what Biddle Works Together actually is. The whole thing is people giving people a hand. So could we not just pull something off a design thing like that? Nigel did it in a few minutes. I mean, I'm not saying I could do it, but there was an image that came up, and to me it hit the spot. But you know, I don't know what others think, and I don't, you know, impose my thoughts on it. But
Just from the perspective of what Sarah was saying, of it coming in different formats, it needs to come in, you know, one that can be without a background, one that's got a background, one that can be put onto different colours, and there are different resolutions and things. So there is a little bit of complexity to it, I think.
well, I'm just an ignoramus. I wouldn't know these things. I just think
Absolutely.
pluck it off, press a button, that one will do.
Yeah, I don't think that's like, we've got a Biddle Town Council logo, which is instantly recognisable, and it's recognisable as a matrix. My sort of initial sketch here, because we were talking about it a while ago, is to effectively blank out the middle of that logo to have it as a blank canvas, and there you could put your hands together, and then instead of Biddle Town Council, it becomes Biddle Works Together. But you've got the brand, effectively the base branding of Biddle Town Council, which is the recognisable crest. I mean, I can rattle something up for somebody to take on in about 10 minutes when I get home, if you want.
Wasn't the idea, though, that the Biddle Works Together was eventually going to go away from the town council so it could attract funding as its own entity?
Yeah, that's why it doesn't say Biddle Town Council, it says Biddle Works Together.
Anyone else got any thoughts?
I'm just keeping the fact that there's a common theme throughout the town. So
That's for charitable purposes. The fact that something's on the internet doesn't necessarily mean it's available free of charge to use. There's something we've got just to be a bit aware of. I mean, I get this with rights to photographs of certain types of vehicles, you can imagine. But that's why I'm mentioning it. And what Councillor Yates has just mentioned there, where you're using something that's well established and just modifying it a bit, I think would be a very good way of avoiding any claims that it's someone else's work.
Really?
Is it worthwhile just getting out and getting a cost which covers all formats and all potential designs?
That would be a way forward, so thank you, or at least we have that information, we could consider whether we thought that was a reasonable cost, yeah.
Does someone want to propose then? Was that your proposal? We get a variety of costs.
Get some idea of cost.
Yeah, second, Councillor Radford. Is everyone in favour of Sarah getting a bit of a broad spectrum of costs?
Yeah.
And then we can work from there, can't we? And Nigel can share his doodles. So item number 90, to consider a request from a member of the public to refurbish the black painted bollards on the high street and to add some reflective strips.
It's exactly as it says, really. After Christmas lights event, we had a sort of flurry of conversations about this backwards and forwards over email. I would need to seek your advice really on who installed those black bollards, because I have a feeling that the town council sourced them. And I don't know, there was I think when Jim Davis was around, found them reclamation yards or something, haven't they?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know whether whether as a town council, we're absolutely happy to keep those bollards, or whether we want to ask for new bollards to be installed, whether you can amend existing bollards, I don't think the county council come out and paint them, so we would need to ask if there was anybody who could paint them for us. It's just a sort of, I need to give some feedback to a member of the public really, but I'm not really sure what the.
Councillor Rogers, Councillor Yates, Councillor
Yeah,
Garner.
just a few comments on this. County Council installed them, and for quite a long time, they were actually painted by a Bill and Bloom team. And the gold paint that's on them is quite an expensive paint. It's like a gold leaf paint that doesn't go off. It stays nice and shiny. So it's a very expensive gold paint that's on them. Regarding I see the reflective strips. I don't know what you call them with a reflective strip here, because they're in a cone shape. You couldn't just put a band of reflective around, it wouldn't work. It's because it's coned. So I'm not sure about the reflective side of it. But I know that the Bill and Bloom team used to maintain them. I don't know why they ain't maintained, to be fair, unless it was Bill's idea, I don't know. But I know she did tell me the paint was very expensive, the gold paint was, but the gold leaf paint, not just a gold paint. So yeah, I think they do want to clean up a bit, but I don't think there's anything need taken out, because there's that much in the ground. The bit above, there's that much in the ground. They're quite nice. But saying that, when they get hit, they do snap quite easily. And then being a cast finish, if a vehicle hits them, they do snap off quite easily. That's why the ones on the corner of Southview are actually rubberised. You can push them over and they'll come back. You've been hit so many times with vehicles, they have to put rubber ones on the corner of Southview. So, ongoing maintenance. I don't think the county have ever painted them. I don't think they have. And the last time they were painted, unfortunately, they weren't done very neatly. They had some youngsters doing a bit of a project on them. They weren't painted very neatly at times. In fact, they stopped the project and then had to redo the mask up where they put the gold, not just painted on by hand. That's how it was done a few years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Councillor Rogers has said pretty much exactly what I was going to say. Even with the best will in the world and the best paint, you can't do them freehand. You've got to mask them up, which means it's a more laborious job than you think, because this kind of paint does take a little bit of time to cure. You can't quickly do one and say 20 minutes. You can do the next. But if they're done with the best will in the world, I mean, I don't know who's requested doing it, and I'm sure they are very, very competent, but they've got to be done properly. Otherwise, you do get a mess, don't you, so to speak. I don't think there's any issue with the black. I mean, smooth hammerite's very good for that kind of thing. The gold, I'm sure there are spray cans of gold which are probably suitable for the job. There are some very good ones, but I accept that. They don't currently have reflective strips on, do they? I know somebody sort of said, but if people are daft enough to drive on the pavement, then they're daft enough to hit them. You should be driving on the pavement full stop. And the reason they are like that is they are actually an architectural style. And if you get the reflective strip with the best of intentions and it just doesn't look right, it's, people shouldn't be going up the pavement, full stop. We don't put reflective strips on the flower beds and on the pedestrians walking up and down the pavement, do we?
Can I say something? They do though, don't they? It's all right saying they shouldn't, but people do. That's why the bollards are there. I mean, it's all very well saying it shouldn't happen, but it does happen.
Yeah.
It was just a comment, the fact that there are actually two different sizes of bollard. And I know that the plan for the yarn bombing ladies is that they're going to sleeve all the bollards as aliens for the festival. So if we're going to do any painting, please leave it till refurbishment, leave it till August, September.
That's a lot.
Feeling this is going to sound very much like a minority view, but here goes. Walking up and down the high street with some regularity, I observe the bollards, and I've got to say at this moment, they've never struck me as looking tatty.
No.
So my first question is, do they really need
No.
any refurbishment at this
No.
stage? So that's one point. Another point with regard to the reflective strips, I particularly looked at one at the bottom here on the way in tonight with that in mind. And there is a part where if you wish to install a reflective strip, you could do so without a cone effect, I feel. Contrary to what
I'm not saying.
And-
That's what I'm saying.
but I'm saying there's a part just a little bit lower down that's parallel sided that would lend itself to a reflective strip. However, and going back to my minority view, I'm not convinced either that there need be a reflective strip. If people do in fact drive up the pavement and collide with one, their vehicle's going to come off second best. And therefore, I
You won't do it
think
twice.
that ought to be a sufficient deterrent, I think.
Yeah, just to say that the deputy's mayor minority view, I don't think is any way, shape or form a minority view. I think that around this table that they don't really look tatty. I'm not keen on reflective views. All that does to me is it says somebody with a car with headlights can actually see it before he hits it or she hits it. And I just don't think they're necessary. I think they'll detract from the aesthetic effect. If you start adding bits of tatty bits of reflective strip on that over time will come unstuck or become picked by people who don't like them as well or whatever. So I really don't think. I mean, obviously, the person who's written this is obviously well intentioned and is very keen to look, the town to look nice, but I really do think there's a lot of other things that we could be putting effort and money into rather than that.
Sorry, Adley, Councillor Seeky.
Do they need painting or do they just need a good clean? Soap and water and just clean. Road debris and our beautiful English weather and other.
What else?
They're actually in good condition. I don't consider them to need any attention or any reflective strips, I don't think it'd be a good use of public money.
Happy note.
Yeah. Perhaps we could put it forward for further consideration.
Get down the road, you mean? Not the bollard.
So shall we, are we happy with the condition that they're in at the moment and we review it in the autumn after the festival festivities?
Yeah.
Just before you make that, I
Rogers.
think we should look at all of them. If there's one or two that need attention, then they're the ones we should look at. I'm not sure about, I can't say everyone in the town is perfect. I've looked at everyone in the town. There might be one or two that do need refurbishment. I don't know off the top of my head.
Perhaps if we changed it,
Have a look at them and go from there.
if we changed it a little bit, is there any that stands out that looks as though they need doing? Because I certainly haven't seen, nothing has stood out to me that says they need something.
I think we should check them out, as I say. And not just push it to one side. So, well, that one is a bit of a mess. We'll do that one. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine. That one wants to look at.
Problem is when you do one and one.
You make the rest look tatty.
It's done. You don't paint one corner of your room, you do the whole room, don't you? If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna do the lofts, but I don't see any point in doing it.
Through the chair, Councillor Jackson's got a point. You replace one roof entirely, end up replacing your roof.
I've got some points.
No.
All right. Somebody had done that.
Yeah.
It's the cat like it's all.
Because councillor, what did they just say? We at least have someone have a look at them, see what effectively an appraisal of them all, see if there are any. But as the chief officer suggested, talk to them who currently previously done the work and if they have any intentions as well. But it would be good if someone prepared to volunteer to go and look at all the bollards and do a quick appraisal. That would be useful. And then we know for certain what we've done facts.
I do know I had a dirty car door and I cleaned it and ended up having to clean the car. Shut down. So you got to be careful for just doing one bollard.
I had half a shave once and it stood out terribly.
Right,
Been a long year.
The examples.
so can we have, councillor Garvey, is that your proposal?
Oh,
That we have, the chief officer and her team can go and do an appraisal of the bollard.
We haven't got time to appraise
No.
bollards. If somebody else has got.
The deputy mayor can appraise them as he walks up and down town on a regular basis, and you're closer to the bollards now.
Uncalled for activities.
Well,
Yeah, we don't wear glasses. Fuck you.
only High Street, isn't it?
High Street, yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
That end really, that end.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it, but I say, I've already nailed my colours to the mast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you would accept what I find to be objective. If I would,
Trust your judgment implicitly.
I'll volunteer to do it.
Thank you. Through the chair. Good man. I propose that as a proposal then that they are evaluated by the deputy mayor.
And chief officer can also
I'll speak to
approach Biddulph and Bloom
Yeah.
and see what their intentions are. Okay, in that case then, if there's no further comments, we'll close the meeting at 6:56 PM.